We want the exciting things that we see in sci-fi, in like sci-fi movies and books. We want that to come true one day.
T-minus 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition.
In fact, I think hardly anyone in the public knows that this is happening. Like, how do we, get this message across? Hey, really cool stuff's happening, tune in.
SpaceX is like no other rocket company. They're in an unglamorous building, in the middle of nowhere, in kind of a industrial zone. But when you walk into the doors and all of a sudden you see they're making these pristine, gorgeous rockets. It feels like you've walked into a factory on another planet.
No one has ever really contemplated this in a serious way. In the beginning, we thought, this is so crazy. What are we doing trying to come up with something like this? And then over time, we're like, yeah, it can definitely be done. And now we're just kind of arguing over the details. I went to Russia to look at buying a refurbished ICBM, which is a very trippy experience. It was very bizarre. And when I tell people that, they're like, what? I went to Russia 3 times to look at buying a refurbished ICBM. Because that was the best deal. And I can tell you it was very weird going there in late 2001, 2002, going to the Russian rocket forces and saying, I'd like to buy 2 of your biggest rockets, but you can keep the nuke.
Musk made 3 trips to Russia trying to buy an intercontinental ballistic missile called the Dnieper. Turns out the Dnieper was so expensive his idea never flew. So Musk decided that the only way to get an affordable rocket was to build it himself. And he started SpaceX.
The odds of me coming into the rocket business, not knowing anything about rockets, not having ever built anything, I mean, I would have to be insane if I thought the odds were in my favor.
How did you get the expertise to be the chief technology officer of a rocket ship company?
I do have a physics background. That's helpful as a foundation. And then I read a lot of books and talked to a lot of smart people.
You're self-taught?
Yeah. Well, self-taught, yes, meaning I don't have an aerospace degree.
So how did you go about acquiring the knowledge?
Well, like I said, I read a lot of books, talked to a lot of people, and have a great team. Raw metal comes in, and then we build the engines, the airframe, the electronics, and we integrate all of that together. And that's all done more or less under one roof.
Metal comes in one end of this factory.
Yeah.
Spaceships come out the other.
Yes.
You know, there are American heroes who don't like this idea. Neil Armstrong, Gene Cernan have both testified against commercial spaceflight in the way that you're developing it, and I wonder what you think of that.
Now is the time to overrule this administration's pledge to mediocrity.
I was very sad to see that because those guys are, those guys are heroes of mine, so it's really tough.
They inspired you to do this, didn't they?
Yes.
And to see them casting stones in your direction.
It's difficult. But creating a company is almost like having a child. So it's sort of like, how do you say your child should not have food?
So once you have the company, you have to feed it and nurse it and take care of it, even if it ruins you.
Yeah.
In 2008, The rocket company is not going well. You've
No.
had 3 failures.
Great.
The car company is hemorrhaging money.
Yeah.
And the American economy has tanked in the worst recession since the Great Depression.
Right.
What was that year like for you?
And I'm getting divorced, by the way. To add to that. That was definitely the worst year of my life.
But at the age of 37, he hit rock bottom. His first rockets failed to reach orbit.
End of 2008. How did you get through that period of crisis?
Yeah. Can we just break for a second?
Sure, of course. Yeah.
I remember waking up the Sunday before Christmas in 2008 and thinking to myself, man, I never thought I was someone who could ever be capable of a nervous breakdown. But I felt this was the closest I've ever come. Because it seemed pretty dark. We were running on fumes at that point. We had virtually no money.
So a 4th failure.
A 4th failure would have been absolutely game over.
Done.
Done.
SpaceX bankrupt.
Yeah, it's bad enough to have 3 strikes. Having 4 strikes, it's kaput.
Flight 4 was flawless. In Musk's world, it lit the darkness.
Stage separation.
Separation confirmed.
NASA called and told us that we'd won a $1.5 billion contract. And I couldn't even hold the phone. It's like, I just blurted out, I love you guys.
They saved you.
Yeah, they did.
Only 4 entities have launched a space capsule into orbit and successfully brought it back. The United States, Russia, China, and Elon Musk.
But when critics say you can't do this, your answer to them is,
we've done it.
But the big prize is winning the NASA contract to build America's next manned spacecraft, and Elon Musk is facing stiff competition. SpaceX is also testing a rocket that can be reused, softly landing on a column of flame. Another step on a longer journey.
Just a very tough engineering problem. In the last 12 months or so, I've come to the conclusion that it can be solved. And I think SpaceX is going to try to do it.
Falcon 9 is essentially standing on the shoulders of titans, as they like to say in literature. We've built upon a lot of those lessons. The things that NASA has learned, we've taken that, but used kind of a clean sheet of paper that says, how can you build a rocket knowing that we want to do things that have not been done before?
After years of designing and testing the Falcon 9, in 2015, SpaceX set out to make history by attempting the first ever landing of a first-stage orbital rocket.
I've heard it described as you're standing on the top of the Empire State Building and you drop a pencil off and you have to land the pencil on its eraser on a postage stamp.
Okay, this is bad. This is bad.
Standing up. It's standing up. Look at this. Look at it. Look at it. It's just sitting there. Look at that. What? Holy smokes, man.
Wow, this thing actually landed intact and amazing. That was crazy.
Heavy lift capability is the critical technology needed to enable human missions to Mars, and a reusable heavy lift vehicle is the critical technology needed to settle Mars.
In the need for an urgent abort, operators shall call hold on the primary countdown net. Combat secure for T0 88.3 degrees. Reminder, side booster engine startup is at T-minus 7 seconds. SpaceX Falcon Heavy, go for launch.
3, 2, 1.
Pico.
Center. We just have to restart it up.
You see them both now?
Successful separation!
Fucking Christ. Yes, light and
Side boosters have touchdown. Landing operators move on to 11.100 on recovery 1 and recovery 2. Stage 2, AFTS has saved.
Before SpaceX can launch crew, two major milestones must be completed without crew. The first is the Demonstration 1 mission, or Demo 1, in which SpaceX must autonomously fly their Crew Dragon capsule to the International Space Station and back. The second test is called the Launch Escape Test, also known as the In-Flight Abort Test. If the rocket fails, the Dragon capsule's emergency abort system is triggered, ejecting the capsule safely away from the rocket. Then there is the third and final test, called the Demonstration 2 mission, or Demo 2, which will launch NASA astronauts Bob and Doug to the space station.
Demonstration 1 mission, or the Demo 1 mission, is an uncrewed flight. We're sending the Dragon autonomously to space station to dock and come home.
Today's launch marks the beginning of the Crew Dragon Demo 1 mission. This is one of SpaceX's most challenging milestones yet, a 5-day uncrewed journey to the International Space Station and back.
3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition, liftoff.
You know, you're basically putting enough energy into the spacecraft such that it's equivalent to like a meteor. It's just like it's difficult for people to even comprehend.
Hour and telemetry nominal. The first one is going to be the main engine cutoff, or MECO. That's when the 9 Merlin 1D engines that you can see on your screen right now will cut off shortly before a stage separation.
For the first stage, it starts its engines back up. It flips itself around, and the whole first stage is re-entering the Earth's atmosphere and slowly making its way back down for a landing on a drone ship that is out in the Atlantic Ocean.
Landing legs have deployed. And Falcon 9 has landed.
After the first stage separation is complete, the Crew Dragon capsule is propelled into orbit by the second stage.
The second stage is lighting up its engine, and it's taking the Dragon spacecraft into orbit. Once the second stage successfully gets Dragon into the orbit that it is intended to go, it separates Dragon and moves away.
This is a pivotal moment. The separation of the second stage from the Dragon capsule is the final step of the launch sequence.
Dragon, separation confirmed.
It's amazing. This is a game changer.
The launch vehicle places it in orbit. That's low Earth orbit. It's actually fairly below and behind the International Space Station. And it'll perform a number of burns or maneuvers where it'll catch up to the space station. And it's got to match that speed. And eventually, when it catches up to it, it's got to slow down. Now, if it goes too fast, it's going to go past the speeder. If it doesn't go fast enough, it'll eventually not be able to catch that speeder. So it's the same sort of process. This is a fairly critical operation because this is the first time this vehicle has ever flown, and we want to make sure it does not collide with the space station.
Ultimately, the vehicle is fundamentally flying itself, but we also have ground control who's monitoring it and sending up a certain amount of commands. There's also a certain amount of access that people on the space station, they can see what's happening on Dragon and are in contact with the ground control at the same time.
The Crew Dragon spacecraft uses an automated system that is able to sense the position of the space station relative to the capsule and is able to guide the capsule into dock with station.
Orientation is expected. Vehicles in the corridor performing review.
We stop within about 20 meters of the docking port that's on the International Space Station.
Hold command sent.
Copy hold. Dragon hold confirmed.
And then the engineers at both NASA and SpaceX review the data from the spacecraft. They talk, they make sure that everything is going according to plan, and they're both happy.
This is the first time that a commercial vehicle will dock to the space station. It's also the first use of the International Docking Adapter, which is the port on space station where commercial vehicles are going to come up and dock. And so we'll see both sides get used for the first time.
Please command the docking light on.
Copy, commanding docking light on.
Then Dragon is allowed at that point to autonomously move forward with the approach and docking to the space station.
Dragon is resuming approach. Station copies.
The Crew Dragon spacecraft uses its 16 Draco thrusters to maneuver into contact with the space station docking adapter.
You got to dock with the space station, and if something goes wrong, you're just in the void of space, and you're in a vacuum with nothing. We've got the spacesuits, and we've got a lot of backup systems, but it's a dicey situation.
Range is decreasing. Vehicle is centered. Copy.
The capsule inches in towards the station.
Vehicle is in the corridor. Orientation as expected. Copy.
Crew Dragon has a variety of safeties in place so that should anything go off nominal, the capsule will automatically retreat and keep the station safe.
All video and overlays look nominal. All status fields are showing expected status. The station crew is ready for docking.
This is the first time that a commercial vehicle has autonomously docked to the space station.
Vehicle mode is approach to docking port. Primary range is decreasing. Vehicle is centered.
Top capture confirmed.
Watching Demo 1 vehicle dock with the space station was amazing. It was kind of terrifying, and it should be. These are the first time you do something, you should be pretty worried about how it's going to go. And it was amazing.
Proceeding to opening the hatch.
On behalf of Ripley, Little Earth, myself, and our crew, welcome to the Crew Dragon. Welcome to the new era in spaceflight.
Dragon stayed docked with the space station for 5 days.
It takes about 6 hours for Dragon, once it leaves the space station, to come home and splash down in the Atlantic Ocean.
The 16 Draco thrusters are responsible for orienting the vehicle in the correct direction. They fire to slow the vehicle down to the point that it will come out of orbit and begin to re-enter the atmosphere.
Re-entry is one of the most dangerous points in the mission. There is no way to stop re-entry once it starts. Traveling at about 17,000 miles per hour, when Dragon hits the atmosphere, its heat shield will be put to the test as the vehicle is enveloped in a giant hypersonic fireball.
The atmosphere does the majority of the work to slow the vehicle down to a few hundred miles per hour.
Now that the heat shield has passed its test and Dragon has safely slowed to below the speed of sound, it's ready to deploy its parachutes, which is the final step of re-entry. Key NASA and SpaceX officials have gathered in Firing Room 4, also known as Launch Control, at the Kennedy Space Center. They will oversee today's critical in-flight abort test. If this test fails, the Crew Dragon program will suffer a major design setback.
Now, as a reminder, the ground is not commanding this abort. It's up to the onboard computers to determine when to trigger the launch escape and do all the functions afterward. Once Dragon does trigger the launch escape, the first event will be commanding Falcon 9 to shut down its 9 Merlin engines. Now, as Marie and I mentioned earlier, Dragon will then separate from the Falcon using its 8 Super Draco engines, firing for about 8 seconds. That carries Dragon capsule with the trunk up and away from Falcon. Now, once they finish firing the Super Dracos, we coast, we jettison the trunk at apogee, we reorient the capsule to come back for entry into the Earth's atmosphere. We deploy about 2 minutes after apogee the drogue chutes, and about a minute after that, the 4 main parachutes will be released. Dragon will then splash down softly in the Atlantic Ocean, about 35 kilometers offshore.
Parachutes are way harder than they look. If you go back and look at the Apollo program, they had people quitting over how hard the parachutes were.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Green light, green light, green light. We got the cool on drugs.
We almost had people quit at SpaceX over how hard the parachutes were.
Capsule has touched down.
Take a quick look now at Crew Dragon. It stands almost 27 feet tall from the bottom of the trunk to the top of the nose cone. And Crew Dragon is composed of 2 main elements. The capsule, that top portion, is designed to hold crew and pressurized cargo, and it has an unpressurized section known as the trunk that's down below. For today's test, much of the exciting work is going to be done by the Dragon's 8 Super Draco engines we talked about, built directly into the capsule.
Falcon 9 is in startup. Dragon is in countdown.
FTS is armed. Go for launch.
3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
When you watch a launch abort test, you're wondering, has everything been done to get this vehicle ready for an end-to-end test in one of the most stressful and dynamic scenarios you can imagine for spaceflight?
Stage 1 propulsion nominal. Falcon power and telemetry nominal. MECO, Dragon launch escape initiated. Firing is looking good. Stage 1 throttle down.
Approximately 10 seconds after the abort was triggered by ground control, the Crew Dragon capsule jettisoned away. The force of the ejection made the rocket unstable and it exploded. But the Dragon capsule was already safely a mile away.
Our parachutes are triggered and deployed when the capsule reaches the correct altitude. And so at a high altitude, it will deploy the drogue parachutes. And when it reaches a lower altitude, the main parachutes will deploy.
Splashdown.
You know, the system is more than just a spacecraft. It's the people behind it that are operating it across teams.
But for all the triumphs and all the successes and all the attention that a company like SpaceX gets, they have not flown humans before. So it's a huge responsibility. I mean, NASA's astronauts are their pride and joy. They're national heroes, and their lives are being entrusted with these companies. So we're going to see if they can pass that test.
We're turning every stone over 3 times or 4 times just to get that probability of success as close to 100% as possible.
And they're just turning the corner, getting inside that elevator. You can't see it from here, but there is a banner hanging there. You can kind of see it in the back. There's a banner hanging on the wall of the elevator with the signatures of all the people who worked on this mission. So it was really important for them to hang that up in there so Bob and Doug could see it.
Good morning, welcome aboard. Dragon, SpaceX, ComCheck, ground station. Bob, Doug, on behalf of the entire SpaceX team, it's been a huge honor to help you get ready for today's historic mission. Know that we're with you, have an amazing flight, and enjoy those views of our beautiful planet. Dragon, SpaceX, seats are in the launch position.
We copy.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA, go SpaceX. Godspeed, Bob and Doug.
America has launched. And so rises a new era of American spaceflight, and with it the ambitions of a new generation continuing the dream.
On behalf of the entire launch team, thanks for flying the Falcon 9 today. We hope you enjoyed the ride and wish you a great mission.
MD Houston flight. Houston is go for undocking and departure.
Dragon is committed to undock.
SpaceX Dragon on Dragon to ground. We are ready for the systems brief.
Copy. As stated, Dragon's in a healthy state. We are proceeding toward the primary landing site, and your timeline is current.
Visual, 2 droves out.
300 meters. We have brace for splashdown.
Copy, brace for splashdown.
Endeavor, on behalf of the SpaceX and NASA teams, welcome back to planet Earth, and thanks for flying SpaceX.
I think like my entire adrenaline, it was just dumped, you know. It's like, thank God, you know.
It's a humbling experience to be a part of what was accomplished.
And this is the result of an incredible amount of work from people at SpaceX, people at NASA. This has been 18 years to finally fly people to orbit and back. You know, I think this is something that the whole world can take some pleasure in, and can really look at this as an achievement of humanity. And there's, you know, these are difficult times when, you know, there's not that much good news, and I think this is one of those things that is universally good, no matter where you are on planet Earth. This is a good thing, and I hope it brightens your day. Thank you.
If you like the video, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification to be the first to know about the release of a new one. Thank you for watching. See you soon.